Good afternoon and welcome to the Small Business Briefing. It is Thursday, May 27th. I'm Rob Fowler, the CEO of the Small Business Association of Michigan. My co-host is Brian Calley, president of SBAM. And this briefing is brought to you by Health Screen and Healthy Visitor. Once again, reminding you that it is still a requirement to screen both employees and visitors, contractors to your business. And Health Screen and Healthy Visitor is a simple text-based, send out a text in the morning to your employees, you're done and you're compliant. You can find out more at healthycomply.com. Brian, we have a couple of guests today, a couple of members. I'll set up this kind of the reason we had these two, but I think it was kind of your idea to have them both on. A couple of returning veterans for us.
Yeah, this is I think it's an opportunity to illustrate what these rule changes or how these rule changes are being implemented, because there's a fair amount of flexibility which has been inserted into the MIOSHA workplace safety rules with respect to the differentiation between requiring masks and whether or not a person is vaccinated and distancing. And I don't think that we talked about this before, Rob, but one of the things that stuck out to me straight away in these rules is that in the workplace safety rules, in Rule 6, Part 5, it says compliance with these certain areas having to do with face masks and whether or not somebody is vaccinated and distancing and whether they're vaccinated. So compliance with those parts of these rules may be accomplished in, quote, a manner deemed effective for the place of employment, end quote. So what that means, really, there is some flexibility in here, and how you implement these workplace rules is according to a manner that you deem effective. Now, I think there's got to be something behind it, right? You have to be able to credibly claim that these rules are effective, but it gives you some flexibility to move forward in different ways. And what I thought was particularly insightful on a side conversation that we had before was two of our members that will not be new to people that watch this briefing. Both have been guests on the briefing multiple times before, taking a couple different approaches that are right for their place of employment. And I thought it might be helpful to have these real life examples of how different experienced, successful business owners have approached this.
Well, perfect. Let me set this up a little bit. Our two guests are David Rhoa from the Marana Group and Ginny Sherrow from Fenton Wine and Brewery. Ginny is a member of our board of directors, and David is a past chair. David, you sent out something to some other business owners, a kind of a group of your confidants, and you used an analogy that I thought was really good. You talked about the kind of the employer's dilemma, that you have employees who are fed up with the rules and the regulations, and you have those who are terrified to be in a room with other people who may or may not be wearing a mask. This was true sort of going into the pandemic, at the very beginning, and sort of looking to you for answers and guidance. And it's also true coming out, that some people are still very uncomfortable with being around other people, and some are done with it. And the question you asked was, the analogy I thought was great was a scuba diver who may have gone deep and has to come up very slowly, and they do that to avoid what is called the bends, which is a condition that you get if you come up too fast and your oxygen sort of changes inside your body, and it's a very painful. So I love the question that you pose. Are you going to avoid the bends, mean do this slowly, or are you going to flip the switch and just go back immediately to the way it was before, or as much as you can? That, I think, Brian, is the leeway that's given in this new order. And what we understand is each of you have taken a slightly different approach to this, or maybe a dramatically different approach. But I want to start, David, with you. If you would just explain to people what your business is, it'll give context to how you're going to approach this. And I'm going to ask Jenny to do the same thing.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. I appreciate being here. Marana Group is a data document and distribution solutions company. We've been operational since forever. Throughout the pandemic, we never closed. We were qualified as a essential business infrastructure facility early on in the executive orders, and we've never shut down. So we've been implementing rules and changing rules as new directives have come out since last March. And we actually started prior to the shutdown, we actually started putting in rules to maintain facility safety. So our facility is a 30,000 square foot facility, largest portion of which is a production plant, a manufacturing operation. And then the balance of it is office space and computer programming capabilities and that type of work being done, desk work being done on the other part of our building.
All right, that's helpful to sort of, again, give context to this. Ginny, let's do the same with you. Will you just, it might be obvious, Fenton Winery and Brewery, but it's more than that. Will you tell us about your business?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. Benton Winery and Brewery is a full production winery and brewery, as you would guess, but we operate a fairly large on-site banquet venue, which has capacity of 280 people. We also have a public tap room, which is open 5 days of the week to the public, and we serve artisan pizzas, beer and wine by the glass, and so we see lots of of our regular neighborhood customers, and then lots of tourists throughout the year.
Okay, so I want to ask the two of you the question. Are you going to avoid the bends or flip the switch? Starting with you, David, you posed the question in that way. You had thoughtfully sort of laid out a set of options. What have you chosen to do?
Well, we've elected to really avoid the bends. We put out a survey to about a week prior to the announcements of this week being made. We put out a survey to our COVID oversight safety team, and about a third of our company, because we had to have somebody on staff who's familiar with the rules. That's what the requirement required, that we had to have somebody on staff who was familiar with the COVID rules. About a third of our staff is on that team. And we put out a survey saying, how do you want to emerge from this? How do you want to re-enter production? And our people were very, very clear that they wanted to avoid any situation that would relate to separate rules for different people, those who were vaccinated versus unvaccinated. And then they also wanted to avoid a situation where we simply threw away the safety protocols that we had put in place, both that were required and those that we had invented of our own, and kind of phase out of it. And so we're electing to phase out of it slowly. So right now, the requirement is, regardless of your vaccination status, you have to wear a mask when you are within 6 feet of another individual. And that's pretty much the basis of it. There's some other things that we're doing that are the same as that we've been doing, but there are some things that we're getting rid of or we're walking away from. For example, we're shutting the doors because now we can touch doorknobs and we don't have to clean them so heavily. We are not cleaning as vigorously because, again, the data suggests that cleaning doesn't really help in the spread or prevent the spread of COVID. So we are changing some things, but the primary focus, that keystone element, is the mask, and it's what our people said they wanted.
And is there a time frame on that, David?
We are watching it right now. I think there's been some confusion amongst the staff that, the media talks about July 1, that the mask issue goes away, when in fact, that's the health side of things. That's the Health and Human Services side. But my OSHA rules, as they're written today, suggest that they will go through October 14th. So we may be changing that as we go along, but right now we expect that to be between now and October 14th.
All right.
So David, maybe just one quick follow-up on that. So, but the new rules, when they say masks for unvaccinated people, but only when you can't maintain distance. Now that allows people to unmask more than they could have before, right?
Yes.
So I maybe just kind of capture that your staff is probably going to spend less time in masks as before, even though you're not, as of this point, allowing some difference between vaccinated and unvaccinated.
Brian, that's a very good point. When we when the rules were first put in, we went through the process of separating workstations and keeping people 6 feet apart. So you can literally be at your cubicle, at your workstation, at a piece of equipment, in most cases, and be outside of 6 feet. It's when someone approaches you that you both have to be in masks. It's when you have to go away from your workstation and walk into a warehouse or get on the forklift and drive into the warehouse. You need to be in a mask. So when you're in motion away from your workstation, we need you in a mask. But if you're in a shared space by yourself, standing in the hallway using the copier, you don't have to wear a mask. So yeah, mask usage will go down.
All right, let's turn it to you, Jenny. Same question, avoid the bends or flip the switch?
Yeah, so we flipped the switch, and I think that we have a very different situation because we work with the public every day, right? And the order came out on a Friday, and it was effective 9 a.m. on a Saturday. And so not a lot of time to kind of go through things. Fortunately, SBAM, what I always do, listen to your briefing. You guys came on Friday and did your briefing, which was extremely helpful. Read the order from front to back, like I always do. And then on Saturday morning, I read that order directly to my team. And we've been following the orders. We've been taking them very seriously from day one. And I felt like there was no reason to take this order differently than following it just like on day one. And so we decided as a team that we were going to flip the switch and, made my signs, put them up. If you fall under an exception, you don't have to wear a mask. Now the outdoor went away completely. And for us, we actually service outside about 80% when there's good weather. And so, we felt like, just like David mentioned, they didn't want to have different rules for different people. Well, we deal with the public, and we knew the public was going to come in right away. This thing was very highly advertised. It was on the media. It was out there. We knew on Saturday we were going to have this situation, and my team needed guidance. So we decided that we weren't going to treat, we weren't going to allow the customers to be treated differently than we are. We're individuals, and we work hard, and we got vaccinated, and we should be able to unmask.
So to be clear, this is both your customers, because you are very public facing, and you put some signs up and said if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask, and you have the same policy for your employees.
Correct. Very simple.
Yeah, and so maybe Jenny, now that you've been through, through a weekend, and we've had some pretty nice weather lately, and I know how popular your establishment is in the first place. I'm kind of curious about the reaction it has been. Because I've noticed in a lot of places, servers are still wearing masks. You've decided to go the direction of the servers showing their faces again to the customers, and so I wonder, how has that gone? How has it been received?
It's gone amazingly well. I was also nervous because we did flip the switch, and I provided my employees with the choice. We have people that still obviously wear their mask, which is great. And then we have some that have chosen not to because they fall within the exception. And it's been amazing, honestly. Lots of smiling faces, and our regulars coming back and can see their faces. And I hate to actually admit this, but I had a new employee that I hadn't actually seen their face until this order came.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
You're like, who are you when they show up? Yeah, that's I'm not terribly surprised to hear that. That there was a warm reception to that. I wonder if you could maybe, because your business is so public facing, have you noticed over the course of even just the last week differences? I've noticed anecdotally in some of the places that I visit, a local small grocery store in my hometown. I went in on Saturday morning, the day that the new rules went into place, and I was actually the only one in the place, the whole place, save for just, some people I saw right on the way out that wasn't wearing a mask. Now, I've been in that grocery store a couple times since then, and it's about 50-50 now. So just in the course of a week, people are feeling more comfortable to go and, whether it's because they're actually vaccinated or not, they're feeling more comfortable going into places without them. But have you noticed any kind of shift in your business?
Yes, 100%. So when the order came out on Saturday, I would say that of my own team who, took the step, it was only just a couple people that decided, they weren't going to wear the mask that day. And with guests coming in on that Saturday, it was a very low amount of people that came to the property without a mask. But now that it's been a week, it's been, like you said, Brian, a lot of people have chosen not to wear the mask now. So the comfort level has definitely been loosened up, and people are just, I don't know if it's a liberating feeling. They just feel more comfortable, but yeah, it's definitely been a change.
Right. So, so both of you had, a lot of, you talked about your engagement with your teams, and, David, you did the survey, and I know that you regularly meet with that team, and Jenny, you had met with your team, and we know from previous discussions that it's kind of a family. And I obviously I don't want you to tell secrets or embarrass anybody, but have you been met with any kind of dissension? Anybody who, that in terms of your, I'm talking about your staff here, that really had a problem with the direction you had to kind of manage through?
I have not. Like I said, they have a choice. So I have team members that still, wear their mask. I have quite a few, and that's great. And we're all accepting and a family, but I haven't had any negativity come my way.
We haven't either, and we also mentioned in our meeting to this group earlier this week that as we go through the transition and we ultimately phase out of masks, I envision that even when masks are not required, there will be language in our handbooks and in our safety material that says, if you feel you want to wear a mask, as long as it's not an impediment to safety for you or someone else, or it doesn't have something written on it that's terrible, you'll be welcome to wear a mask as you see fit. And the things that we are keeping, for example, cleaning supplies and hand sanitizing and hand washing stations, all of those are going to stay. We anticipate those staying well beyond the end of any type of MIOSHA order. We look at that as just best practices. And I think my staff has, at least the last couple of days, has been very receptive to the idea that, yeah, this is going to work for us.
I think part of the reason we wanted to have the two of you on is the sort of storytelling of how you're managing through this. I do want to point out, Jenny, that you have because you're so public facing, you said it really quickly, but you put up the signs, and putting up the signs means I'm going to tell the public what my rules are, what we're going to do. And the truth is, an employer could still say, you got to have a mask on to come into my establishment. Or you could say, you don't have to wear a mask if you're vaccinated. But your sign is going to tell them the rules. David, I loved the analogy you used. You said, this is like when you go to someone's house, what are the rules? Do I take my shoes off or do I leave them on? But they get to decide what the rules of their house are. And businesses get to decide what the rules of their business are. Jenny, I assume your sign said you don't have to wear a mask if you're vaccinated.
Yeah, actually, I listed all the exceptions, and like I said, I read the order to all of my employees directly. I wanted to read it just as it was written, and I wanted it to come directly from my mouth as the owner, and I wanted them to understand it. So it was a little bit of a training session as well as a meeting. So that all of our staff members are very clear on what the exceptions are, because also we deal with public. So there's a couple of things that would fall in there would be, for ID purposes, right? So need to take down your face mask so that we can ID you. You know, all of that stuff is actually written in there. We don't talk a lot about all of those little intricate things, but my signs actually list all of the exceptions. And then I have a couple larger signs that just refer to the exceptions. So I have several signs, and we've made sure to have that inside and out. And I made sure that the team was very clear on what those were.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because we talk so much, the vaccine exception, which is now 5A, it's at the top of the list of the exceptions. But there are 13 different exceptions to the face mask rule. And most of those have been in there most of the time. You know, they've been updated periodically throughout, but those younger than 2 years old cannot, those who cannot medically tolerate a face mask while you're eating or drinking. You'll be pleased, Rob, to know that you don't have to wear one while you're swimming. That's one of the, Rob's a swimmer. So they've got all these different, did you put the swimming one on your sign, Jenny?
I actually did. I actually read it out in our meeting just so we could get a little giggle in there. But the other thing that we also see a lot is communication to the blind and hearing impaired. And we do actually see that a lot. We do have regular customers that need to be able to communicate with. And so that's another exception that we've had to, you know, make sure we know.
Well, I really do appreciate you both being willing to share your experience and the decisions that you've made. You know, when I look at one of the hallmarks of strong leaders is strong communication, and I wouldn't want it to be lost on anybody that, you know, two people that have taken these rules and, you know, slightly not radically different approaches, but different approaches to implementing the rules, and but one common thread is the inclusion of the team on the process, and what a difference. I know that makes a huge difference, and I don't think that'd be any kind of surprise to anybody who's watching this, that's, you know, strong communication is a big part with your team, but also with the general public, you know, letting them know when they come to your facility what is expected. So well done. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you both. I hope this has been helpful. Even the sort of language of avoid the bends or flip the switch. I think it's every employer's challenge right now about how they're going to approach this. And I hope this has just been helpful in thinking it through. Brian, I want to go back a little bit to what's causing this dilemma, if you will, for the employers. And it is the two orders that came out a week or so ago. Let's just review a little bit. One of them was from the Department of Health and Human Services, the other from MIOSHA. As we've said all along, the Health and Human Services really talks to the public, and MIOSHA to businesses. If I were to summarize, I'll oversimplify, but the Department of Health and Human Services rule is the one that essentially said only the unvaccinated need to wear a mask. Is that a fair assessment of what the main thing that the Health and Human Services order did?
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, they did eliminate a lot of capacity issues and a lot of industry specific limitations. So the hard thing about these public health orders and the way that they're written is they put prohibitions in, but then they remove the prohibitions. They don't say now you can do these things. They stop saying you can't do them. And so I'll give you an example of something. This is actually, for as experienced as I am at these things, it's tripped me up many times. When I'll get the new order out and they'll say, there's no limitations on outdoor gatherings. And I'll go through the order and I'll say, I'm looking through all these pages. I don't see anywhere where it says there's no limitations on outdoor gatherings. Well, it's not that they say there's no limitations on outdoor gatherings, it's that they don't have the prohibition in there anymore. So it's by its omission that it is now allowed. Same for other things like the curfew that was in place for food and beverage service. I mean, there were several things like that, you know, improvements that were taken out. They did an across the board change in terms of capacities. So before, some industries were 50%, some were hard cap of 25, and even the ones that were at 50% had hard cap dollars or hard cap capacities at certain limits that had nothing to do with the size of the venue. That stuff has been taken out too. So it really did, it was a step forward. It's June 1st through July 1st. Now, how do we know that this goes away at July 1st? There's nothing in the order except for the expiration date. The expiration date is July 1st. In the past, these have always been extended. The governor said this time it will not be extended. So, so this order, we know will go through July 1st. It'll be extended at this point. Its main levers are the mask requirement that you talked about, Rob, and the exceptions to that. It does have some organized sports and some specific issues like that, but then it still implements a 50% capacity limitation, but it's set up by industry. It's just across the board. And then they also put in a it's 50% or 25 people, whichever is higher. So before 25 people was the cap, the most you could get like in a convention center, and now it's 50% of the fire marshal capacity. But no matter how small your room is, up to 25. And so across the board, it was a good. It was a good advancement, and I know that there are many others that are looking forward to the 1st of July when this order just goes away in its entirety.
All right, and part of the source of confusion, we just talked about it, is the workplace rules actually came in the second order, the MIOSHA order, and it has a different deadline or a different expiration date on it. Although I think we don't expect it will last till October in its entirety. But again, what I hesitate to say, it clarified things. I think some people would disagree with that, but it simplified at least. That is, it went industry by industry prior to that, and it made sort of across the board rules. What should people know about who haven't really zeroed in on this yet about the MIOSHA change?
Well, the MIOSHA change, this rule set is I would call it streamlined compared to the previous rule set. So I also think it's a big improvement over what we saw before, in that it gives more flexibility. It has some connections in with the CDC, where things can change at the CDC level and automatically flow into these rules. It still has some requirements like health screening, and you have to have your emergency preparedness and response plan. By the way, we have a new updated template. If you don't have one of these, we try to make it as easy as possible. It's plug and play. If an employee of yours complains and MIOSHA calls, the first thing, I promise you, the first thing they will ask for is your copy of your plan. If you don't have it, it's pretty much a guaranteed ticket. So don't get caught up on that, right? So we try to make it as easy as possible, but you still have to have one of those. And then you've got the health screening, which is still required, but distancing and masking only in the event that you're not vaccinated. It gives the same, it's kind of pretty similar in the exceptions that to the public health order. I mean, in terms of, I shouldn't say the exceptions, but the ways that you could comply. Could be posting, could be asking for records, could be still having people work remotely. So they give some examples in there. I did verify earlier today with the department that enforcement of this will be, by and large, by complaint, following up on complaints. There have been 15,000 complaints in the last year and 3 months, which is way more than usual, but it has settled back down now. Late fall, when we were in the middle of that wave going up, there were about 2,000 on the high at the high point, 2,000 complaints during the month of November, I believe. Now they're running about 600 or so, and so that's still historically high, but lower. I will keep track of that. I'm interested with new rules. Do complaints go up? Are they going down? I don't know how that will turn out. I wouldn't be surprised if they went down, from here on out. That's what we would hope for. But
Can I just observe, the conversation we just had with David and Ginny, we called it the employer's dilemma because you're going to make somebody unhappy, whichever way you go. And if you make employees unhappy, the likelihood that somebody's going to complain about it goes up. And so your point is well taken. You do not want the preparedness response plan to be the thing that trips you up.
yeah, and I think that our we're definitely entering into a different phase, and momentum is changing here. It's changing around the country, and it's changing in a way that I don't think will be denied. I mean, it was kind of already happening before the CDC made their recommended change on face masks, but we don't know for sure what federal OSHA is going to do with their, they've had this proposed rule set that nobody has seen or nobody public has seen yet. It's still hanging out there. We don't know if they're going to come out with something different. We don't know for sure how long our current MyOSHA rule set will last. We're hopeful that it won't be through October. We think it'll be kind of awkward for there to be emergency workplace safety rules for COVID, but no active public health emergency order, which expires on the 1st of July. So that's an open question. But one of the things that I think our next step in advocacy is to ensure that the workplace safety rules do not persist unnecessarily long, especially if there's a determination that there's no longer a need for an epidemic emergency order in the first place.
Yeah. All right. And just again, a reminder that we have a template prepared and response plan that you can just plug and play, put your own information into it, adapt it to your own company. Sarah put it in the link and it's available on our website. We also have signage that will give you two options. One, if you want people to wear a mask no matter what, you can we have a sign for that option. And we also have one that says, if you're unvaccinated, we'd ask you to wear a mask, otherwise come in. Also templates that you can use, and you can also find those on our website. Hey, let me just mention as we close today, the SBAM annual meeting. This is our big meeting of the year for our membership, and that is coming June 15 and 17. We believe this will be the last virtual meeting that we do, but it's 2 virtual afternoons, 1 to 3:30 on those 2 days. You can find out more at sbam.org/annual meeting. The theme is navigating the road ahead, really trying to look out beyond post-pandemic and some of the things that small businesses are going to be faced with, getting back to some topics that continue to challenge us. And just hope you'll register for the annual meeting. Again, sbam.org/annual meeting. Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Appreciate your attention and your support. Thanks. See you next Monday.
All right, actually not next Monday because it is Memorial Day. So we will see you a week from today on Thursday. So remember, shop small this weekend. See you later.